In 2025, the American auto industry faces a crisis unlike any before. Factories that once hummed with the steady rhythm of production now stand at a crossroads, their future uncertain. The industry, a backbone of American manufacturing for over a century, is being tested in ways few could have imagined. A sudden shift in trade policy has shattered the seamless flow of parts and vehicles across the US-Canada border, upending decades of economic integration. What was once a well-oiled machine with components crossing borders multiple times before becoming a finished car, is now mired in uncertainty and delay. Automakers, long reliant on just-in-time manufacturing, now scramble as even minor disruptions threaten to halt entire production lines. The smallest missing part can bring a billion-dollar operation to a standstill, leaving workers and managers alike searching for answers. The new reality: massive costs, logistical chaos, and no quick fixes. Companies are forced to rethink their entire approach to sourcing, shipping, and storing parts, as the old playbook no longer applies. Rebuilding a supply chain that spans a continent is a monumental, years-long task. It requires new partnerships, innovative solutions, and a willingness to adapt to a rapidly changing landscape. The fallout ripples far beyond Detroit, threatening small suppliers, dealerships, and tens of thousands of jobs on both sides of the border. Communities that depend on the auto industry for their livelihoods now face an uncertain future. Factory towns feel the anxiety as livelihoods hang in the balance. Families gather in local diners, watching the news and hoping for signs of relief, while the sense of unease grows with each passing day. The auto industry, once a symbol of stability and American ingenuity, now faces its greatest test. Its legacy is on the line, and the world is watching to see how it will respond. The coming months will reveal whether this industry can adapt, innovate, and survive, or be left behind in a rapidly changing world. The crisis ignited when President Trump announced a 25% tariff on Canadian light-duty vehicles, effective April 3, 2025, with more tariffs on auto parts to follow. The move, framed as protecting American jobs, found support among some union leaders but alarmed most of the industry. Decades of cross-border integration mean tariffs would raise costs for both imported and US-built cars. Stock prices for Detroit automakers plunged, while EV makers like Tesla and Rivian surged, seen as less exposed to the fallout. Critics warned the tariffs would backfire, hurting the very workers they aimed to protect. The North American auto market, once a model of cooperation, now faces chaos and uncertainty. Investors and analysts brace for a costly trade war. The industry's future hangs in the balance. In the tense days before the tariffs were set to take effect, a sense of urgency swept through the auto industry. Ford launched a frantic round-the-clock operation, determined to move as many engines as possible from its Canadian plants to its US factories before the new costs hit. Convoys of trucks thundered across the border, braving winter roads and long waits at checkpoints, all to stockpile engines and keep the iconic F-Series pickup production lines running. Each truckload represented tens of thousands of dollars saved in tariffs, but the effort was a race against time. Ford knew this desperate push could only buy a few days' reprieve. The just-in-time system, once celebrated for its efficiency, suddenly revealed its dangerous fragility as parts ran low and shelves emptied. Ford's scramble exposed how a single policy change, one government decision, could disrupt a billion-dollar supply chain overnight, leaving managers and workers scrambling for solutions. The company spent millions on this temporary fix, highlighting just how vulnerable even the biggest manufacturers are to sudden shocks in the global system. The mad dash was more than a logistical challenge. It was a warning sign that the industry's finely tuned supply chains can't withstand abrupt, unpredictable changes. Ford's plight quickly became a symbol of the chaos facing all automakers, as news cameras captured the growing anxiety across the industry. For workers and executives alike, the scramble was a preview of the deeper turmoil and uncertainty that lay ahead. The industry's once invisible supply chains were now front and center, and for the first time, everyone could see just how easily they could be threatened. The tariffs sent shockwaves through factories on both sides of the border, disrupting the delicate balance that North American automakers had spent decades perfecting. Suddenly, the future of thousands of workers and entire communities was thrown into doubt. Union leaders sounded the alarm, warning that Canadian plants could be forced to shut down within weeks if the situation continued. US factories too faced similar risks as the supply of critical parts became uncertain. The just-in-time manufacturing model, once hailed for its efficiency, left no margin for error. Even a brief disruption could bring entire assembly lines to a standstill, halting production and sending ripples throughout the industry. Canadian plants in Brampton, Oakville, and Oshawa faced immediate danger, with their operations hanging by a thread. Meanwhile, U.S. plants depended on a steady flow of Canadian-made parts to keep their own lines moving. Tens of thousands of jobs were suddenly at risk. Workers braced for layoffs, reduced shifts, and the possibility that their livelihoods could vanish overnight. Families and entire towns felt the anxiety ripple through their daily lives. S&P Global estimated a 50% chance of extended supply chain disruption, threatening not just a few plants but the entire network. The risk of widespread shutdowns loomed larger with every passing day. The North American auto industry, built over decades of cross-border cooperation and innovation, can't be untangled overnight. Generations of workers have contributed to this intricate system. Automakers are locked into long-term supplier contracts and production plans that can't be changed at a moment's notice. The complexity of these agreements makes quick adaptation nearly impossible. Sudden policy changes can't be absorbed without massive upheaval. Every new announcement sends shockwaves through management offices and factory floors alike. The industry's deep integration, once its greatest strength, has now become its most significant vulnerability. What once enabled growth now threatens stability. Factories and workers face a future clouded by uncertainty, unsure if the next shift will be their last or if the industry can weather the storm. The threat of shutdowns is real and growing. Each day without resolution brings the industry closer to a breaking point. The stakes for the entire manufacturing economy have never been higher. The decisions made now will shape the future of North American industry for years to come. President Trump's tariffs sparked immediate outrage from Canadian leaders. Prime Minister Mark Carney condemned the move, promising billions in support for the auto sector and vowing to defend Canadian jobs. Opposition parties and provincial leaders united in demanding a strong response. In the U.S., Trump doubled down, insisting the tariffs would restore American manufacturing, even as industry leaders pleaded for a reversal. The standoff escalated, with both sides threatening further retaliation. Political rhetoric intensified, turning an economic dispute into a matter of national pride. The auto industry found itself caught in the crossfire, desperate for a solution. As tensions rose, the future of North American trade grew more uncertain by the day. For American car buyers, the impact is immediate higher prices and fewer options. Automakers can't absorb the new tariffs, so costs are passed on to consumers. Even US-built cars become more expensive, as they rely on Canadian and Mexican parts. Some models may disappear from US showrooms entirely, as tariffs make them unprofitable to sell. The once diverse auto market could shrink, limiting choices for families. New cars become less affordable, pushing buyers toward used vehicles, and driving up prices there too. The tariffs, meant to help American workers, risk squeezing household budgets instead. The ripple effects extend far beyond the factory floor. The average American pays the price for a trade war they didn't choose. Amid the turmoil, a rare bright spot emerges in the electric vehicle world. Nearly every major automaker has adopted Tesla's North American charging standard, unifying the EV charging experience. This shift began with Ford and GM in 2023, and by 2025, most global brands have joined in. Tesla's vast, reliable supercharger network becomes accessible to all, easing range anxiety for EV owners. The move sparks new investment, with a consortium of automakers launching Iona, a joint venture to build 30,000 new chargers. Existing networks rush to add NACS plugs, accelerating the transition to electric mobility. In a time of division, the industry's embrace of a single charging standard stands out as a model of cooperation. For EV drivers, the road ahead just got a little smoother.